Welcome back to Newsy Tonight. I'm James Packard in for Chance Seals. The European Union and the U.S. are warning against a Russian paramilitary group called the Wagner Group. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, they are one of several Russian groups whose combined reach could span to as many as 30 countries. Newsy national security correspondent Sasha Ingber takes a closer look at how and where they operate.
It's often called Russian President Vladimir Putin's shadow army. Starting in 2014, the private military company Wagner Group has been accused of undermining sovereignty and committing rape, torture, and summary execution. Wagner mercenaries have died fighting alongside pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine and in a bloody battle with U.S. forces while boosting the Assad regime in Syria. They're also active in Africa, including Libya, the Central African Republic, and Mozambique. Now, an international group of journalists has tracked down and interviewed 11 families of deceased Wagner operatives, bringing a closer look at who comprises this opaque paramilitary and how they recruit.
People who come from impoverished, disenfranchised backgrounds, no social or economic prospects of which to speak, often with a military background or some kind of violent orientation.
Investigative journalist Michael Weiss says a 4-month investigation began when they got access to a database, about 4,200 names with photos and addresses, compiled by former generals in Ukraine's security services. That information led them to Ukraine and Moldova, and family members who said they never received death certificates or explanations.
Some of the families did make it to Russia to visit the grave sites of their relatives, but the family members have been told, under in no uncertain terms, if you inquire, or you kick up a fuss, or you demand reparations, whatever, you will not be allowed back into Russia to lay flowers at the grave of your son.
The mother of the youngest dead mercenary listed in the database described her 21-year-old son as, quote, cannon fodder. But Wagner men didn't always know they were being conscripted for foreign wars. The journalists say they found vaguely written job postings online with salaries that started around $2,000 a month and sometimes tapered off over time.
A group like Wagner lets the Russian government conceal the human cost of Russian lives in foreign military adventures.
Paul Colby was a chief of the CIA's Russia operations, and he says the world may very well start seeing more of the Wagner Group, which is named after Hitler's favorite composer.
Wagner Group is an organization that provides a Praetorian Guard for aspiring despots. I think I would worry about Ethiopia and the civil war there. I think any place you've got ungoverned space or where you have civil war, where you have competing factions that are looking for competitive advantage on the battlefield by hiring mercenary groups like Wagner. And when that coincides with Russian interest of establishing more influence, then you'll see potential for Wagner Group to move in.
The West sounded alarm bells last week. The EU imposed sanctions on Wagner, and the U.S. State Department, which already sanctioned them, urged Mali's transitional government not to turn to their forces. Russian officials condemned the moves and deny any connection or control of the military company.
You can't separate them. Wagner Group is a creature of the Russian government.
Its financier is oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin, nicknamed Putin's chef, and who was sanctioned by the U.S. in part for funding the infamous troll farm that interfered with U.S. elections. Wagner's founder and commander, Dmitry Utkin, is a former military intelligence officer.
So, Sasha Ingber, kind enough to join us for a little more conversation about this. It's really fascinating, Sasha, and I'm sort of wondering what else you have about sort of the background of these people who are apparently involved in this group.
Great to see you, James. So this database, they calculated that the average age of the men here was about 40, and that they came from 15 different countries, though primarily Russia. Now, these journalists tracked down the family members of a man that they identify as Evgeny. And Evgeny was embroiled years ago in violent protests. A building actually erupted in flames. More than 40 people were killed, and then he fled into the east. Now, we know that Wagner forces were present in eastern Ukraine, that they not only fought alongside pro-Russian Ukrainians, but they trained them, they equipped them, they engaged in intelligence operations, assassinations, disinformation campaigns, and that ultimately resulted in about 14,000 people being killed in the course of this war being fought in the east. Now, there was another man that the journalist identified who they say was featured in a video, part of a group that was brutally torturing a deserter in Syria in the war. Now, the database, it has so many names, it has so much information. It's being held by a Ukrainian think tank. And this is really a starting place. When they give access to researchers, we're going to see more of who these people are, where they were operating, and exactly what they were doing to build a fuller picture of the Wagner Group and its practices.
Sasha, you have the most fascinating reporting beat, and I appreciate you doing this reporting and then coming on to share a little more about it. I have so many more questions, but we'll leave it there for now. Sasha Ingber with us. Thank you so much.